But let's get into it. Welcome to the Dear Son Show. We have meaningful conversations about life through the lens of fatherhood, typically. But this is the month of March. And we brought the women's series back. We got a great guest today. Probably needs no introduction. It's definitely less introduction than I need. I'm D. Johns, by the way. But Toni Estes, welcome to the Dear Son Show. How are you, my sister?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Yeah. Thank you for making what I thought was a trip. We were just talking. I think everybody lives like 2 hours from me.
Yeah.
But it wasn't actually the case. So
yeah, if I would have got started early, I probably could have walked. I wasn't
part,
going to walk.
Yeah, that part.
Yeah, but I was close.
Yeah, well, I had made my son walk to school. That was a whole nother episode.
Listen.
But he couldn't figure it out that morning. How you doing?
I'm good. How about you?
How you really doing?
I'm good.
Okay.
I'm actually, you know what? I am
Yeah.
really good.
Okay.
I'm really good.
I want to get past because I say stuff out of repetition.
Absolutely.
I'm great, cool.
Yeah,
God is amazing, which he is. But I'm also dying inside.
Dying a slow death. Yeah.
Right now, o'clock. But that's
Absolutely.
Cool. That's
Absolutely.
cool. Like, share, and subscribe. I don't normally get that off early, but like, share, and subscribe. Memberships are available. Thank you for the 3 members that we do have. I'll celebrate them until there's 4. Until there's 4,000 and 400,000. We're going to keep pushing like that.
Correct.
Toni, we had some brief conversation. There's not a whole lot of pre-gaming.
Okay.
I sent you some notes about where it's going because I had to make sense of why you're coming on the Dear Son Show.
So what's funny is I said, so I'm going on this podcast and we're talking about father. He was like, why are you talking to you about, why are you talking about you about father? I was like, my experience with having a father. He said, oh, say less. I feel, you okay. That answered that question.
Sir, the invite is open. I know you're watching. The invite is open. She already told me. I actually already see 3 commitments for y'all. This is one of them. Then you got one, then y'all got one together. So y'all can discuss that when she get home. But yeah, it's always important to me. It has become important to me. I'm start lying about my whole life like it's been important.
Listen.
But as of becoming a parent, having a wife, seeing how women change and mature and men change and mature sometimes not at the same pace, then you start to think about why is the dynamic like this? You start to unravel that onion and realize that a lot of it has to do with what you saw, how you were raised in that interaction. So we want to explore how fatherhood matters, period, is kind of the vein of the platform, but it also matters to women. And y'all birthed us. So there's a real connection there. My wife birthed 5 of them.
Ooh,
so
all boys?
3,
okay, I was about to say.
3 girls, 2 boys.
Okay.
So today they are 21, 19, 17, 11, and 10.
She's the real MVP.
Is she?
Listen.
Is she?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I didn't see that in real time. And it's not my fault. It's never my fault. But my wife is a trooper, man. All of the births that I witnessed, it was, let's go to the hospital. Couple hours later, baby. Next day, I'm ready to go home. So by the time we got to 5, I'm like, you do this.
Light work. I know.
You do this.
I know.
But when she looked at me in my eye and squoze my hand on that bed and said, I never want to do this ever again.
Listen.
Say less. How did we get to 5?
Right.
I thought we was done at 3.
Right.
I wouldn't trade 4 and 5 for nothing.
Right.
But enough of me rambling. Where you from, Toni?
I am originally from Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Okay.
Yeah. Black Wall Street.
Okay.
That whole thing, Gap Band, all that stuff. I was there from birth through high school, and then that's when I moved to LA. I signed my first record deal, when I was probably
talk heavy.
No, like about 2 months before I graduated from high school. And so the day after graduation, I moved to LA and I stayed there for a year. I've lived in LA on and off for several years at this point until I got married, and I've been married forever now. So I just go.
What's forever?
In May will be 21 years.
Oh, it would be 20 for us in March.
Okay. It'll be 20 for y'all in March. Yep. Okay, got it. Yeah.
March 27.
Yeah.
So you already turned the corner. You put the signal on. We ain't hit the corner yet, but you hit the signal on. We're getting signed. Because I told you, I just found out that you were singer and songwriter, but we'll get into that. But what was life like early in Tulsa? What was your family dynamic? Who was in the house?
Who's in the house? Mama, daddy, brother. I have a brother that's like 4 years younger than me. My father and mom were married forever. And yeah, my father's a musician. My mom was in the corporate world. And so he kind of, as far as the music side goes, not that we're talking about music, but just to give an idea, he was the person that, so the dynamic was, she went to school, went to work in corporate America every day.
Mm-hmm.
My father played gigs at night. So he was the person that would bring your lunch to school, and he was the person that did all the things
Gotcha.
with the school. This is crazy, but I remember one time when I was little, somebody asked me, a little kid, they didn't know better, is your mom alive?
Wow.
And I said, yeah. And they just assumed that my daddy was raising me back because she was doing the corporate stuff and he was the one that they saw all the time.
That's probably typical from what they would see.
Yeah. Very different from what they would see.
Right. I'm kind of in that situation now, not by any stretch of planning, but I spent 20 years in corporate fairly well.
Mm-hmm.
Toot, not to beat my own horn, but
yeah.
But then the position goes away, so it's getting up the ladder, making sure the ladder's against the right building, and then when that ladder gets pulled from under you, then what? So
but I like that, making sure the ladder's up against the right building.
It wasn't. Yeah, I don't regret anything in my corporate career, and definitely don't regret anything in my corporate career other than how I allowed it to influence how I treated my family. I made it a priority. So there was that. But now I have all the time in the world to get to know my family and not just finance them, which is a growth thing for me.
Yeah.
And I get it. So it's the so-and-so has a doctor's appointment, so-and-so needs this, so-and-so left their jacket, or, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I can appreciate that. And I'm ready to trade it all in. I know my wife is here. She probably like, what's this food talking about? Like, he loved this stuff. I'm ready to trade it all back in and bring her home, because she was home when we moved overseas, she came home permanently.
Got it.
And she went back to bite the bullet to make sure that we can stay alive while I'm trying to get things cracking. So your father was that, so he already resonates with me. What was his personality like?
His personality is my personality. Although I am a good mixture of my parents personality-wise, my father is very, he's a musician, he's an artist to his heart, right? And so that rubbed off on me. We have a very, very, I talk to my daddy every single day.
My daddy. My daddy, I
talk to my daddy. Look, and I don't even know I sound like that, but my friends in LA be like, girl, she talking about daddy again. But I talk to my dad every day. And we have a very, very, very tight relationship. He's actually really cool with my husband now. Talks to my dad. My husband talks to my dad a lot, actually. But his personality is very fun, creative, like to laugh. I talk to him twice a day about, let me tell you this joke that I just heard. That's
gotcha.
That's what our relationship was. Yeah.
Daddy homie.
Yeah.
So you mentioned going to LA early in life. 18, I consider that early.
Very.
And you gave context about your dad being a musician. What was that transition like for you? And how did maybe his experience influence your experience or preparation thereof? Or like, I can't imagine, I'm trying to put myself in that position at that stage, but me not being the musician father, like not understanding my daughter saying she wants to go away to LA, that land.
With all the wolves.
What was that? What were those conversations? What was that transition like, if you can recall? So,
it was something, getting a deal was something that we had been working towards for years, right? My father used to do shows with his bands and stuff. And when I was like 11, he said, he did a show, and I was like, I want to do a show. And so he was like, really? I said, yeah. So the next year at a thing we have called Mayfest, we put together, I had a full band, dancers, background vocals, the full lick, and I was 12.
Wow.
And we did those shows, and I started opening for people, right? But the whole process of it all, whether it be the live shows or just in everyday life, he was schooling me on, just the game and people and what to spot and that kind of thing, right? But he didn't have to stress about me leaving to go to LA because he went with me.
Oh, there it is.
He went with me. We structured my deal in a way that they got an apartment for both of us. So we lived together in a 2-bedroom apartment for the first deal. The second deal, Same thing, except I was big at that point. I was like 20, I think. So he got an apartment next door. So he didn't have to stress.
I don't know which one would be worse for me.
Right. But he's very, you know, he's he let me when I think about it now, I'm like, he didn't really give me a lot of smoke where you just be like, oh Lord, my dad. It was never, I never felt like that. Like for the most part. I may have felt like that a few times, but for the most part, no.
So what was the experience like dealing with the industry? And I only have an outsider's looking in kind of perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And you hear I've heard stories. I can't put any bit of truth or lie to them.
Right.
But it just seems like it can be a vicious world where women specifically get taken advantage of. Men get taken advantage of too. But how was it maneuvering through that? And what role did your father play in ensuring that you bumped your head as few times as possible?
You know what's funny is now that I'm an adult, because my daughter, I have a 13-year-old daughter, and she's a beast. She's
Singing?
like
Ooh.
singing, dancing, acting. She's a beast. And I'm not just saying that because
Yeah.
she's a beast. And so we're kind of trying to navigate the space for her now, right? And I don't know how I feel about it, but, I'm trying to, just do the same thing my dad did for me. It's interesting because looking at the space now, the music industry as an adult, it's almost like I wasn't clueless as to what was going on because my dad was kind of coaching me through it, but I was so insulated from all of that stuff that now I go, oh God, I was inches away from real potential danger. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to
Not the Diddy party.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like it is very interesting. And I do remember being about 21. I told this story, I think maybe a couple years ago on Father's Day. I was probably about 21, and it was somebody that was a thing in the music industry, right? And is now just like behind the scenes, right? And
Doing calculations there.
it's probably not gonna be somebody you think of, but
Okay.
he's like an executive guy, right? And so, just about, so he mentioned me to somebody that was at my label, like kind of like a handler almost that I had.
That's a real thing.
Yes, but it's not. But my dad was really kind of my handler, but he was somebody that you go to different events with, and he's there and kind of the liaison between my dad and whatever. And so he said something about this person was looking at me like he want to talk. My daddy was like, never. Like, I kill him first.
That part.
You know what I mean? Like, and it wasn't even, he was just like, no, you'll never get this one, ever. And I used to be frustrated by it. You know what I mean? Like, dang, don't none of the boys these weren't boys, they was 25, they was young guys, right? But I was frustrated about it. Like, I ain't gonna never get no boyfriend because you just jumping it. You know what I mean? Having no clue. Now I go, oh my God.
Saved your life.
Saved my life. Saved my life. Yeah. And
So how do you process that with your daughter now knocking on that door potentially? Like what?
it's essentially I just do the same thing that my dad, you know what I'm saying, did for me. And I, like we'll see, because what's interesting is personalities. You run into the same type of personalities in different situations. Some of the personalities that you see in LA, you sometimes can also see them at the school, or you can see them at, you know what I'm saying? And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad personality, but it's a certain personality, right?
Be aware.
And so I when I spot certain things that could be problematic or, in adults or whatever, I point them out to both my kids. Hey, let me tell you what this, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This is what this looks like. This is what, even I've had conversations as blatant as telling my daughter, because I can't remember what was going on or what I saw, And it might have been a documentary or something, but I was telling her, I said, most of the time when you go into certain situations, people are not going to say, hey, I'm a creep and I'm trying to do something weird. They don't walk around with that on their t-shirt, right? 9 times out of 10, though, people that have experience like adults, like me, daddy, we can spot it. And they're never going to be just blatant. They're going to be the cool person. They're going to, I said, and anytime somebody tries to drive a wedge between a child and
Parent.
you know what I mean? That's something to be, cautious about. And so she go, okay, all right.
And she gets it.
She gets it.
That's dope.
Yeah, as much as she can get it with a 13-year-old little mind.
I'm glad you said that, because that's one thing that we've been talking about lately on the platform is sharing stories with our children, age appropriate, but ensuring that your kids aren't looking at you as some perfect being that they can't relate to, so that when they make a small mistake, they're nervous to bring it to you. Ooh. And those small mistakes grow into much larger.
Yes.
And you have this distance between you where you can't even. My son told me I was relatable a few weeks ago.
Oh, that's a compliment. That's a compliment.
And he did it on camera too. So
okay. Like, say it loud in the microphone.
He can't walk that back. But that was one thing that I lacked with my parents, and I think it's just a generational thing. Mm-hmm. They were be seen, not heard generation, and that was probably a good portion of my life too. That's how they raised us. Mm-hmm. But the information, the access to information that they have today as children outpaces our ability to parent. So
by light years.
So it behooves us to actually have conversations, and sometimes run across people on the platform. It's like, well, admittedly, I wasn't having meaningful conversations with my son before this podcast started. That's actually why this particular podcast started, to hold me accountable to have conversations with my oldest son at the time.
Got it.
But I think I definitely applaud having those conversations specifically through the lens of your experience and knowing what's waiting for her should she choose to pursue that lane.
Yeah.
So your pops was blocking. Your pops was blocking. That definitely came out. Yeah.
Look, you said how you would be talking to your but that's where I felt like.
Don't come to the table and be cool. So I told you like you're cool. I told you like cool. Your pops was blocking.
He was blocking. I felt like he was blocking.
Yeah, you blocking.
He was saving me, really.
But somehow you've been married 21 years. How did that happen?
I was at an event, the church that I went to. So I had left LA, bought a house, was kind of trying to regroup. Like, what is going to be my next thing, right? How am I gonna, because I love LA to visit, but when I bought my house in Oklahoma, I had the option to stay in LA, and I was like, I just think I want to come here and work. I don't want to, you know what I mean? Because it could be very,
a lot.
It's a lot. It can be a lot, you know what I mean? And so, I moved home, was at an event for my church, and like a banquet, and my husband's mother was there, and he had to drive her to the banquet. We met. My play cousin was his real cousin.
Okay.
And so she was like, my cousin was I'm like, you know what I mean? I didn't feel like, I wasn't on that at the time. And I talked to him once and probably haven't missed a day of talking to him since that day. What's crazy is we got married almost a year to the day we met.
Wow.
So we got married quickly.
What did your dad see in him at the time?
He probably saw a little cocky know-it-all, probably really, because I remember because he went to go ask my dad, could he marry me?
Yeah.
And my dad was like, marry? You don't even know how, you know what I mean? Like, it was like a thing, right?
Completely get that.
Yes. And so they never were at odds, but
his daughter.
Yeah. But my husband, when you're young, you think you got it all figured out. You think you know everything. And I would do, okay. Like my mom say, keep living. Johnny and my mom and Johnny and my dad both have amazing relationships.
How much do you know about his father and their relationship?
You know what? What's funny is I know a lot about his father, but I've never met his father. His father passed away 5 years before I ever met him.
Wow.
Before I ever met Johnny. And he is, his father died in 1999. and his father is a giant in our house, as if he's still here.
Right.
My kids revere him, and some of my other papa that like they talk about him as if they've met him, and it's because my husband is. They had a very his dad was a dad. I can't wait to have him till you have him on here to
Yeah.
talk about his dad, because his dad and my dad complete polar opposites.
But
His dad is like an
both.
old school daddy,
Yeah.
like we're gonna go down to this farm and we're gonna get this. You know what I'm saying? Like he's that guy, right? My dad is like, yeah, come on, you know what I mean? Like still a really, really good, just completely different type of dad.
And all of it matters, man.
All of it matters.
Having a conversation on another show, and the guy that I was talking about, Joe T. So we talked about him right before.
Mm-hmm.
He's always talking about, like, his platform is challenging typically Black people to be better.
Mm-hmm.
Why are we in the state that we in? Why is this? Why is that? And it rubs some people the wrong way. Some people get it, but I kind of know where he's going.
Mm-hmm.
But he's always talking about, man, we don't know how to farm, we don't know how to fish, we don't know how to do this, we don't know how to do that. And he's talking about himself, right?
Got
and he with like kind of like regret, or not even regret, but just an emptiness of not having it. And I said, man, you know what? You know why that strikes me is because to this day, my father has a garden in his backyard where they grow a lot of stuff.
Yes.
You go home and it's anytime I go home, it's a regular thing. And I just started thinking about how much I am not like my father in actions because I didn't like having to do it when I was a child.
Mm-hmm.
But we need to know how to do it.
Yeah.
To save our lives.
To save our
sustain
lives.
us.
Absolutely.
And the thing was, the glaring thing that came out of that conversation, I was like, man, we're about to lose a generational gift. We're always talking about the curses, but it's a gift to be able to pass down how to do something.
Yes, absolutely.
And silly me blocking it because I don't want to cut grass no more.
Listen, because what's really the honest moment, that is one of the things that I had me like, oh, this dude right here,
Oh, he about
him. He can have me, because he knew he every weekend, one of his best friends, I say one of his best friends, which is also his cousin, when we were dating, because we dated long distance, he lived here, I was in Oklahoma.
Gotcha.
And he would like, they would go fishing every weekend. He got several annual hunting trips that he does. He's like a man about that. And I used to get tickled. Even now, I'd be like, here, can you cut this? I know you got a pocket knife. I know you got one. You know what I'm saying? Like, he just did. And my dad wasn't like that.
Yeah.
And I didn't grow up around a lot of people like that. And I just thought it was bomb. Like, ooh, so now my son, even my daughter, like, she know how to, bait a hook, all of that stuff. And I think it's just amazing. And you're right. They are things that we need to know.
Crazy thing is, it's not that I stopped doing it. I said, I don't want to cut grass, but I cut it. But I was trying to manage my son like the way I wanted my dad to manage me.
And that's what we do.
But my dad was like, if I'm outside, you be outside. So it wasn't no let me finish my game or let me. Fun fact. When your dad called, I'm not going to do that to you. I say for me.
Oh, no.
When your parents called you, the response in my house was coming or on the way. It wasn't anything else. It wasn't no delay about yes, and then as the conversation continues,
I love talking to my husband.
From a distance.
Yes.
It's I'm letting you know I'm on the way. I'm just telling you I'm coming right now.
Listen, it is. And what's funny, that is transparent moment. That is one of the things that I get like so my husband that's the way he was raised, right? And that's the way that he, deals with my son. Like, get a move on. That's what my husband always says to him. Because like, if you just kind of
move with purpose,
move with purpose. And so he'll say, Johnny, come here. So say, Johnny, I'm like, can you give him a second? He probably standing up, right? But I do realize that all of those things are important. But I'm like, because I was fathered so differently, and I'm a girl, right?
Oh yeah. And I had girls first, so it kind of, when my son came along, I was like, ooh, punching bag, which is toxic.
Right. Listen,
crazy, but
we work it out as we grow, we learn as we go. But I that is who my husband is. That guy that you say your dad was, that's the way his dad was. That's the way my husband raises our son, and some of it is necessary.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, but I do get the too much. That's what but
How important is that to you? Because that's one of the things I wanted to pull a thread on is what women expect out of men when it comes to not only protecting and providing for them, but how you raise children. And oftentimes, I shouldn't say oftentimes, 'cause I don't have the research, but I know several instances where conversations about how we're going to raise this kid aren't had before the kid is 5.
Mhm.
And then you realize you're doing stuff different. It's like,
Completely
well, I
different.
kind of grew up like this. But how important, I know it's important to you. I can tell by the tone and the way you were saying it, but
Mhm.
how important is what he's instilling in your son to you?
I think it's super important, and it's like imperative at this, you know what I mean? Like you can't be all willy-nilly and kind of don't, you got to be strong in whatever it is that you know and don't, you know what I'm saying? Like all of the things. So it's extremely important to me that he gives him that good foundation again to be able to survive
Yeah.
whatever, be able to sustain himself if it's needed,
Yeah.
right? And I feel like my husband is giving them both best of both worlds because although my husband is all those things, the pocket knife guy, the hunter, the this, the that, the fisherman, he's also in business, right?
Mm.
So he owns a company. We got several, just a bunch of stuff, right? He owns title companies, title agencies. So my son is also getting that side,
Yeah.
going to work with him, seeing how he moves in business, seeing, and all of that stuff is important. I was telling him one time, so my son got into this thing where he wants to play basketball, right?
Mhm.
And he was 6th grade, 7th grade when the pandemic happened. That's a
Yeah.
really important, you know what
Yep.
I mean? So he wasn't seeing the results on the court that he wanted to see. And my husband had this saying, you just gotta work hard. You gotta work. You gotta work.
Mhm.
Kept telling him that. And so one day I told him, I was like, I know what you think you're saying. I said, but probably in our son's mind, he thinking, what does that mean?
Yeah.
What does that mean? Because I remember my kids saying, go practice the piano. What? How do I do that? I done played the song 3 or 4 times. Now what? You know what I'm saying? Like, give me some guidance, right?
Practice
And
doesn't make perfect.
yeah, right. So
Perfect
I'm like,
practice makes perfect.
right, exactly. So I was going, so how do I, so I told him that. And I said, you got to show him what it is. And from that day forward, they were getting up. Like this started his 8th grade year.
Mhm.
Um, they were getting up at 4:30, doing the weights. Every morning, he would come home, eat breakfast, go to school, come back, he just showed them what the consistent work
Yeah.
looks like. And they've been doing that. He's in a sophomore now.
Okay.
So they've been doing it a while, but now my son understands, okay, this is what the work is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's because sometimes kids don't, kids are literal. Like, what does that mean? And so it's important. It makes me feel some kind of way that my husband and my son are building something together, and he's building something in my son. And my husband gets so hyped to pack his lunches. He love packing his lunches. He need this much protein.
Got it.
He got this water, but it's like,
He's invested.
yeah, he's invested. Yeah.
Yeah. So we just had this thing show up on the platform that my co-host on the Dear Son show, the co-host Jay Black,
Mhm.
Punk A Parenting, PAP. And we contrasted that with gentle parenting on the last episode.
Okay.
But what you just said was one of the examples that we were talking about in terms of giving our children what they need because they need it, or overlooking it out of convenience to us because it adds to our plate. Son, if you want to be better, you got to do this. But now that requires me as the dad to show up and be available with all the stuff that I got going on too. So
Correct. That's good.
I'm gonna say that for your husband.
Yeah. Save that because he'll have.
We're gonna put him on the clock on that one. You got 5 days to get over here, bro. We're
Listen,
gonna
he'll
figure it
be
out.
more than happy. I'm gonna sit him right over.
We're gonna figure it out. So, dear son, we talked about your son, but again, I think it's all connected. Dear son, every man is a son. That's the whole hook, people. Every man is a son. Every man doesn't have a son, so it's not just about being a father. It's about the experience as a man. And like I said earlier, I don't know if I said it on camera, but how that largely informs the father-daughter relationship informs how she goes out into the world and perceives men, gravitates to men, or is repelled by men, so on and so forth. I
Mhm.
believe.
Mhm.
So what are you saying with him and your daughter that makes you smile about where your daughter is going to be in life because of your husband?
That is they have a special
Mhm.
relationship. And she thinks she's his mama. Like, so, did you go to bed? You need to go to bed, daddy, because you need to get rest. Okay. Are you still up? Like, she kind of, that's kind of her. And he's like, they have a really close relationship. He tells her all the things, tells her how smart she is and how pretty she is and how she can do,
Mm.
whatever it is she puts her mind to. Um, and I know how that played a part in how I move in the world.
Talk about that, because I was pinning it as a question in my head, but you went to it. How does that matter?
So it matters because I think for me, uh, going when it came to dealing with guys and stuff, I was already sure, right? Like, I mean, there's always, the girl experience is the girl experience. You could have heard all the things, right? And you still like, well, does he like, you just go through that kind of stuff, right? But I always dated people because I wanted to date them, not
Gotcha.
because I'm looking for you
Desperate.
to make me feel pretty. My
Mm-hmm.
daddy already told me that. You know what I'm saying? I'm not doing it to, you know what I mean? Like I did it because I wanted to do it, right?
Right.
I'm talking to you because I think you're cool and for no other reason. It informs a lot. I think I'm able to give people grace, you know what I mean?
Mm.
Because of him and how he moves. And I think I had the best of both worlds. My mother was, I say churchy. She wasn't toxic churchy because I think that could be a thing, right? But
Coin that phrase. Toxic church.
toxic churchy. But she was, we went to church every Sunday. We did our thing. My dad was traveling and recording and playing and on the road and stuff. And so my mom was the churchy saved. My father was the worldly. So I was, he used to be like, that's a bunch of crap. Don't listen to, like he was the person that would, so now I see when I move around and different, even me and my husband, I'd be like, please, that's nonsense. This nonsense. And
Yeah.
he'd be like, this girl. But turns out, or I can spot a thing.
Mm.
I can spot, like it could be somebody that Johnny is about to do business with. And because of the way that my dad has coached me up over the years, I'm like, that ain't it.
Flag.
That ain't it. And every single time, it ain't it. You know what I mean? So it is given me a lot of wisdom just watching him and listening to him,
Mm-hmm.
my father. And I feel like Justin will have the same thing. Cause Justin like, oh, my daddy, please. My daddy do that. He don't, I think it does make a difference. And I'll tell you how I know that it makes, from a woman perspective, how you find out, oh, this really has more weight on me than I thought it did originally, or it plays a part. My parents got a divorce 2 years after I got married. And when I tell you it shook the table, it had me like, it just kind of knocked me off my axis for a minute. Like, wait, hold up. So then I'm looking at my husband going,
Nothing is forever.
yeah, like, well, okay, so it really, he was like, Toni, you know what I mean? Like it turned into a thing. Eventually I got over it. It took me about a year. But just seeing that had me looking at my husband like, oh no. Like, are you what you on? Like what, you know what I mean? It just, because that's the first relationship with your
Yeah.
dad. And so if that's shaky, then if my daddy's shaky, you can absolutely be shaky.
One thing I've come to the realization, question probably the last couple of years is, like, when we say how long we've been married and people clap, ask them why they're clapping.
Good.
No, I'm dead serious. Like, what is your assumption about 19
Can you
years?
quantify?
What is your assumption about
Yes.
20 years?
Yes.
This could have been 15 years of toleration, and we just learned to talk 3 years ago.
Literally.
You know what I mean?
Literally. And everyone is going to be different.
How did that, man, that's another podcast. But you said it.
What?
When your parents divorced, what did it do to you and your husband? Did it make you more intentional about it? Did it make you question, is this are we a forever thing? Like, what is that? How do you process that?
What's weird is it didn't make me question us.
Mhm.
It didn't make me question me. It made me question him. I can't even it just felt like the foundation was just fell from under me. It's like, because again, unconsciously, you don't know how much you really look at this first relationship and gauge it based on like, oh, they good, we good. So now that they not good, what we do? Like it just kind of, and it I can't say that it made me work harder to work on it. I was just in a state of like, oh God,
Mm.
like what are we? It just made me question everything about everything.
Yeah.
And like I said, eventually, I got over it, but it was, he was like, babe, he was calling my daddy like, I don't know what you got to tell, but she is not doing well.
Wow.
Like, so.
I can imagine because my parents have been. It'll be 52 years for them in May,
Mm,
and it came up in another conversation that I've never really looked for answers outside of the house when I was growing up. It was
mm-hmm,
having a conversation, contrasting,
yeah,
different life, different lived experiences.
yeah,
And so when I see people hanging on every word of an influencer or a celebrity or what have you, I never could understand it.
yeah.
'Cause I'm like, how are you in your mind this close to a person that you've never actually been close to?
Right.
So I can only imagine if now at 52 years, something went awry with them.
You be going,
Um,
yeah, because it makes everything, so I know the feeling that I had. It made everything feel like a lie.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
so you've been lying this whole time? Like, no, I have. You know what I'm saying? It just felt like the whole, like, so are you really my daddy and mama? Like, who are these people? Like, it just felt really weird.
How important is it for you and your husband to model your relationship in front of your children?
Oh, super important. Super important. And it's important to have healthy conflict too. Because I hear just in the internet streets, you would just hear different people saying, well, my grandma was with it's like, and she probably hated every second.
What are we
But
celebrating? Yeah,
what we celebrating? It's like, but she, yeah, honey. I was like, and she, so letting them, because sometimes I feel like people can get in relationships and the least little bit of shakiness is like, oh no, this wasn't meant to be. Like, no, that ain't, you know what I mean? So I want my kids to understand that there will be bump. Ain't nobody getting knocked upside the head and it ain't no bump. You know what I'm saying? Not that,
yeah,
but that we can disagree on this. It might feel a little smoky in the chest, but then later on when you come back from school, it's like, y'all kissing now? Like, we over it. You know what I'm saying? We good. You know what I mean? So I think that's important just so they can go into things healthy when they have big grown up relationships.
yeah. They definitely know. I remember a conversation where it wasn't the best timing for my son to mention it, but he was like, "But you and mom aren't even good right now."
You be like,
Little n-
look, mind your business. What?
Like, also, other than that truth,
Right.
shut all the way up.
Shut
Shut all the way up.
all the way up.
But
Yes.
they definitely know.
They pay attention.
Definitely know.
Mm-hmm.
This has been an interesting ride. I'm gonna start the wine, but it's one thing that we're making sure that we ask, specifically the women. It's typically something I would ask when I was a guest based show.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what's something that you wish your father told you?
That's good. I wish did you send it in the text? Because I would have been
So
like,
now you
where's
telling
it?
my secrets. You're gonna have other people. I gave you a courtesy.
You're right.
I don't be giving
And
people
I didn't even,
courtesy.
I just needed the over,
Yeah.
but that's a good question.
Mm-hmm. This is
Uh,
my Oprah moment.
mm, I really don't know.
And that's an answer because that means he did his job.
Yeah, he did a really good job. It's a different job than some, you know what I'm saying, the standard, but
Mhm.
I feel like he told me about all the potholes. He always made me feel like You did? Oh, so come on. Like, you know what I'm saying? If it was never like, well, my daddy, how some people had that story. It was never that. I always felt like, so somebody asked my husband that didn't know us, is Toni close to her dad? And he said, or does Toni and her dad have a good relationship? He was like, that man will kill you on the courthouse steps about that girl Toni.
At right now o'clock.
Yeah, correct. And so I always knew that. I always knew that there was nothing that I could do or get into that he couldn't help me with. You know what I mean?
How did he handle your mistakes?
Um,
Assuming that you made a mistake or
yeah,
two.
no, I'm a human, so I made some. um, how did he? Um, he would fuss probably,
Hmm.
but I never felt like it was the end of the world. I always
Yeah.
knew, okay, like he fussing and he mad and I'm a little nervous or whatever. But all that said, I still feel like I can he would get, the mistakes that he would get the most frustrated about were mistakes that he perceived as me not seeing my value.
Oh,
You know what I
okay.
mean? Like, no, make, and I'm be transparent moment. So me and my husband had this thing. My dad, my husband is church. He grew up Koji. My
Okay.
husband did, right? And so, I grew up in church, but not Kojic. And
Yeah.
my daddy was a worldly dude, so he know how to put some certain kind of words together real good. And it tickles me now because I'm like, it never even sounded like nothing when I was little, but now I'd be like, that joker used to be cussing. You know what I'm saying? Whatever. But it's like he I just I knew that he had me. Like I always knew, like, dude, my daddy'll come down here and talk to y'all so bad. You know what I mean? Like and I just always felt like he had my back.
Dope.
No matter what it was, I always knew that he had me. If he saw me doing, like, one time I was going out with my friends and had on some shorts. He thought the shorts was too short. I don't even remember how they might have been. He was like, it just would just, like,
Yeah.
what are we doing? You know what I
Yep.
mean? But he now I get it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I get it.
That's one thing I'm constantly adjusting. I realize that parenting doesn't get easier as they get older.
No, I feel like it gets harder
It's more intense.
because you got less control. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like it gets harder.
Have some adult children living in your house.
Ooh,
And let's talk about that then.
That's
We'll revisit that.
yeah.
Dope individual. Didn't let me down one bit. I'm sure the audience has enjoyed it.
I hope so.
What do you want the people to know about you in closing?
So, I just launched my new vlog, Champagne and Cornbread.
I meant to say something about that. Champagne and cornbread.
Champagne and Cornbread. It's all the things me. I'm giving tips, tricks, because sometimes people look and they go, oh, I know you. Like, girl, this is from the thrift store. Like, don't get caught up in, fly is not a price tag. Fly is how you put it together. Like, you know what I mean? So I'm kind of giving that, and on champagneandcornbread.com or toniestes.com, you will be able to get to my channels, my socials, my, all that stuff. I'm working on new music. Excited about that. Got a show coming up in Oklahoma soon. And yeah, that's what she got going.
So this man may not make it. Who have you worked with that we recognize?
So I've written for the stuff that that is most notable is I wrote a bunch of stuff for Whitney Houston. Co-wrote a bunch of stuff for Whitney Houston.
All right, we're gonna mic drop me at the end.
Yeah.
That's really dope.
Thank
I don't know. I
you.
mean, what else? I don't know where you go after that.
Yeah, listen. That's the question I've had. What do I do after this? After I do, yeah. I'm super grateful for that.
Why?
It's just
Why? Hold on.
Okay.
Hold on. Because
Okay.
no. No. That's more than a speed bump.
Okay.
Like, you really do this.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are people, like, I've written some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Not for nobody. Not for nobody.
Listen.
I remember the lyrics, but not for nobody. What does that feel like to be associated with that level of greatness
Mm.
or to be that great yourself?
You know what's weird? And I tell my husband this. Mm, when you're doing a thing, you're just doing it, right? My husband told my son this the other day. You're going to get to a place and you're going to hit a point. It's like, oh my God. But then you're going to realize, oh, the fun was in the journey. It's the getting there. That's like, oh my God. You look up on your podcast like, 4 million people following this
18 million.
podcast.
Oh, you said 4? I said 18 million people.
Yeah, 18 million, 4 million, you know, however many. It's like, oh, but you realize the fun was in building it, right? And these fireworks that you're expecting to get at the end, they, you know what I mean? They don't necessarily come. I am just now at a point where I realize, so they did a movie about her life 2 years ago that was at the movies. And sitting in that movie, so I sang in the movie, right? Sitting in the movie, I was like, this is crazy.
I sang in the movie.
I
You got all of these, and also this, and also this, and also this.
Yeah, it's a bunch of little stuff.
Go off.
Yeah, I've done it forever, so it's like a bunch of little things. Like, oh yeah, I forgot. I did do that. I did. You know what I mean? Whatever. But that's one of those things where I'm like, this is crazy. I'm solidified in history. One of the greatest to ever do it.
Dope.
Yeah.
And
I'm grateful for that.
On that note, we'll end it. I see there's got to be some other ways to have different conversations with you.
Yes, I would love to. I would love to. I love this.
Like, share, and subscribe again. This is my wife's children's book. I do have it again this time. Sometimes I don't have it. Sometimes it's inserted on the screen. But Chocolate Princess Collection Volume 1, Princess Mocha. For the listeners, I am holding up the physical book. It is available via lovekeishaj.com. And it's actually for you.
Oh,
lovekeishaj.com.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Thank you.
Yeah, you got a whole swag bag.
Oh, yay.
Yeah,
come on.
Stuff.
Oh, this is dope.
So, very, very well written, very well illustrated. My wife is dope. I'm glad y'all were able to meet.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because all she's waiting for me is to get her home from work so she can go back to being creative.
Listen, tell her it's right around the corner. It's coming.
On your street. On your street. We appreciate you guys.
Thank you so much for having me.
Appreciate you for coming. We appreciate you guys. God bless you. Peace.